Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Didikanku. Today, I'm joined by a special guest and an old colleague, Kathryn. She is a organizational development officer, or OD officer for short. So, Kathryn, can you tell us a little bit about what an OD officer does, and a little bit about your background for the listeners, please?
Sure. So currently I'm an OD officer, as we call it here in the UK. And really it just means to help the organisation to develop and looking at some of those longer term people processes. So how can we make sure that we're bringing in the right people with the right skills that the organisation needs for today and in the future, and looking at those processes as well that are really important when it comes to people management, and bringing in new projects all the time, just helping the organisation to really drive itself forward and making sure that we're kind of agile enough for that external environment that affects what happens, and making sure that the employees as well have just a great experience. So under the arm of OD, we also look after L&D, or the learning and development, that more traditional field of the training aspect. But in my role, some of the projects that I look at are doing a skill gap analysis across the organisation, having a look at where our employees currently have a lot of strengths and are there any gaps, and then what does that mean for where the organisation wants to go in the future. So, for example, some big emerging skills are in the likes of project management, not just being an actual project manager, but in any role, you're going to start to come into contact with being part of a project. So do you know how to run that? Do you know what milestones are? How do we really ensure that, our people have the skills? And we look at things like the MY review process, or the annual review, which a lot of people are now saying is kind of dead, right. That annual appraisal. And so just bringing that more up to date and modern, so having those conversations more regularly and really focusing on how's the organisation going to benefit from that, and the employee as well.
Right. So you talked a little bit about like skills gaps. So once you identify that, you develop a training or a module to fill those gaps. Is that kind of part of what you do as well?
Yeah, so we're just in the process of running that project. So we're going to be mapping everybody against the essential and desirable skills of the job description primarily, but then working with managers. And I think that's the key thing, is to do everything tailored and bespoke. You can do a one size fits all approach. So if we start to see there's an organisational gap, then we'll look to see how can we address that with maybe an external training programme or something a bit more kind of structured. But it's also about individuals working one-on-one to see what do they need. And then also managers looking at their teams. So it's quite exciting to be able to see what's it going to tell us, and then being able to look at that from the organisational, the team, and then the individual level. And I think that's really, the future of personal and professional development.
Right.
It's not just a one-size-fits-all approach for organisations.
Right.
It is that tailored approach as well. So if you can have a bit of a mix, then I think you're onto a winner.
Okay. And so part of your, I guess, part of your responsibility is to help the other managers then, to help with that personal development of said employee that they're managing. Is that right?
Definitely. So there's two of us in my current organisation that do my role, and we work very heavily with the leaders and the managers in the business to support not just their staff's development, but their own development as well. I think especially when you work in HR, you're kind of the forgotten people, because you develop everybody else, but who develops you? And the same can be said of managers, and especially during the pandemic. Some of the challenges that brought for maybe even some of the most experienced managers and leaders, but they still need support somehow and somewhere. So yeah, we do a lot. So that's where I do a lot of my coaching as well with that management population. So we don't just bring in a training course, put them on it, and that's it. It's all about, okay, well, how are you going to use that knowledge? How are you going to embed it? What does that mean to you? So it's that ongoing offer as well. that shows our real investment in our management, because that flows down obviously to staff as well. And it's not just focused on the development of staff. It could also be focused on, are there any challenges or issues with performance, and how can we best address that? Just making sure that, everybody is getting a fair and equal opportunity to develop, but that some of those challenging conversations are also happening and not being hidden as well, because somebody finds them uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you mentioned something there quite interesting about HR helps train, but who trains HR? So how do you keep up with your training?
Well, I do things like this, to be honest. Yep. I join a lot of webinars. It's great during the pandemic. A lot of that stuff that used to be in a location, you'd have to spend time and money. It's all free. There is so much now that you can access. Yep. I often do a lot of self-reflection, just to raise my own awareness. If I've had a difficult situation, I'll talk it through with a colleague, talk about, how I approached it, get their feedback on it. I'm very happy to go to my manager, my director, and talk with them about my future. Where am I at? What does that look like for me? So nobody tells me what to do. And I think you said you're going to ask me a bit later on some tips for how people can be successful. I think you have to make your own success, and you have to create your own opportunities, because yes, some people will come along and do it for you, but you really have to stay relevant in what you do. Right. And that, I think, comes down to a lot of taking personal accountability and responsibility.
Yeah, definitely responsibility and accountability on your part to make your own plan. And it seems like you have quite a good plan for yourself. So, what got you interested in this development part? I guess you develop people, you develop certain trainings as well for the company. You said you also do coaching for some of the managers. So what got you interested in this?
I think it just goes back really to when I was teaching in Asia. So I never had any thought about, moving into HR or even teaching with children itself. I left university and wanted to go travel. So I thought, apparently I can go teach English and travel at the same time, thinking I'll do that for a year and then I'll come home and get a proper job. But I ended up being out in Asia for 10 years, nearly. And I think it was just, the whole process that I've been on has been a learning journey as to really what I enjoy doing. And that happens to be helping people. So when I was teaching children, I realized I like teaching, not necessarily with children. Right. But then I moved into teaching adults out in China. And I thought, again, I really love teaching and helping adults to be the best that they can be. And, especially learning English, it helps them with their career opportunities. It builds their confidence. And I think that's where I really started to see the impact that I can have by just helping other people to do what I do already, which obviously in that case was speak English. Right. And then the opportunity came along for me to apply for the teacher trainer position. So that would cover in the east of China, as you know. And I think from there, it really just started to accelerate that. I absolutely love working with people, whether that's new people into a role, whether that's existing people just looking for a bit more development, or whether that's people at the end of their career journey in that role, but aren't sure what to do next. And is it okay to leave? And is it okay to be open that you want to leave? And I would say, yes, it is okay, because you need to look at the opportunities, but also if you're in a role that you need to develop and move out, but you're happier, so you're going to see those results. And I think that's where some managers and organizations maybe need to start embracing that as well, that they're going to leave at the end of the day, but are you going to get another 12 months of productive, motivated work out of them? Or are you going to get another 12 months of them just not being happy? Right. And then they'll probably leave anyway.
So it's a lot about not just developing them for, I guess, for we could say selfish reasons, but actually for their own development.
Definitely. And I think that's something I'm really passionate about. And I'll be honest with people, because after that training position, I did move into management myself to see, again, is management something that I would enjoy? I really enjoy working with staff, but how would that work if I was to actually manage them and deal with that customer element on the side? Learned a lot about myself in those kind of 18 months, 2 years that I did that role. And that's where it kind of solidified. I absolutely love working with staff, not so much being direct with customers. And I do enjoy management, but I would enjoy doing it in more of a people-focused role. Hence why I decided to, upskill myself for the move back to the UK, get my qualification in HR, and then, make that transition. And then I ended up where I am today.
Interesting. So it all kind of evolved from first helping someone develop a skill that, well, you kind of already had. And then that kind of evolved into you training other people to help those people teach better or give their knowledge better. And then that developed into a bigger role of development and helping people actually increase their value, I guess, for their own reasons. And whether or not they stay with the company or they go on and pursue better things for themselves, kind of your role there is to develop all that. That's quite interesting. So I do have a question though about that. Sorry, you can say what's on your mind. Sorry.
I was just going to say where it's just interesting how you summarize my journey, where I started off with helping people with a skill that I already had, so I could share that with them. And I think when you look at coaching, which is now the kind of the sphere that I've moved into, the beauty of coaching is you don't necessarily need to be skilled and knowledgeable in the specific area of the coachee. So it really turns the table. So now it's like the coachee has all of the answers, but you're there to help them figure that out, rather than at the beginning of my journey, I had a lot of the answers and was giving the input, helping them. So would
you say that that's also helped with your development, being a coach?
Definitely, because it's really helping me to see that I don't need to have all the answers. I don't need to be particularly experienced in everything that my coachees, are dealing with in the industry. So I deal with people in marketing. I deal with people in organizations outside of my own one. I do internal coaching as well, but I don't do their roles that they do. I'm purely there from that development side. But through all of those people, you can still help them through, the skill of coaching and helping people to realize their own potential and take away their own barriers of what's stopping them from moving forward.
I mean, you mentioned a lot about coaching just there, but you've been a teacher, you've been a trainer, you've been a manager, you've managed people. You're a organizational development officer. So, I mean, of all these skills of training and teaching and coaching, which would you say you use more of, or do you combine some elements of these different skills?
I would say the one thing that kind of pieces these all together is just having that kind of passion and, real desire to understand people. Through all of those roles that I've done, it's all about understanding who I'm working with, understanding what do they want to achieve. So listening is definitely a skill, again, that comes across them all. So once you can truly understand where somebody's coming from, what their experience means, the cultures even that they mean, as to how they see the world, their ideas, their opportunities. Once you can kind of listen to all of that, I think that's when you then are able to really help them, because you're going to be, giving them either solutions from a training perspective, or just asking those really good questions in a coaching perspective
Right.
to help them figure out, well, what's the next path? And I think that's something, again, people maybe don't fully understand when it comes to the term learning and development or professional development. You know, it has to be an external course. I have to do a degree. It's like, no, there's so many ways for us to help you. But first of all, we need to find that right way.
Right. Right. Well, that would lead me to the next question, which is, have you ever met someone that was undevelopable?
I wouldn't, I don't know if we can say that anybody's undevelopable. At some point in their life, people will be able to develop, but it's all about their mindset. So definitely, I've come across people that just have not wanted to change, didn't feel that they needed to change, or were going after the wrong thing, which meant that they were getting frustrated because they weren't being successful in the development that they were trying to do. So an example being, you know, in my previous organisation, very clear path into management. But that was really the only place to go because there was not so many other lateral positions that you could move into.
Right.
But that meant that people who maybe are not right for management, wouldn't fit into management, found it really difficult because that was the only path available. So they were trying it, but not really having the motivation, not even having the right attitude, and then not being able to progress, but not understanding why. And I think, you know, that's where you can let somebody try something for so long, but maybe you need to then help them to understand and ask that question, is this the right path for you? So I did have quite a challenging staff member, not that motivated.
But it sounds more like it wasn't that this staff member was undevelopable. It's just that the development was in the wrong direction. And
at the wrong time.
And at the wrong time. And what you did is kind of steer it and get it back on track.
Yeah, but in the end, that person left.
I see. Okay. Okay.
So it's not that they were, you know, undevelopable. They were just undevelopable in that current organization because what they wanted wasn't there. So some people, and you know, that person had been with the organization for quite a few years. So I wasn't the first manager to come across them.
Right.
But it was just kind of like, oh, that's how they are. That's their attitude. They won't improve in this. They won't improve in that. You know, their strengths are here.
But them moving on might have been exactly what they needed, right? You never know.
And it really was, because I remember sitting in that room with them because I was trying to mentor them. Right. And I was sat in the room and I just had that honest conversation. And I was just like, you don't seem happy. You're not coming into work very positively.
Right.
And from a well-being point of view as your manager, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see you be unhappy and feel stuck. Right. And I can see you're putting energy into developing, and I'm happy to help you. I'm giving my time to help you. But is this really what you want? Right. Is this the path for you? And let's discuss it. And if it's not, let me help you make that move somewhere else. And honestly, I've never seen somebody, it was like a weight. And after that, we had a great relationship. You know, even after they left, still pop in and see me, you know, bring me a little gift on my birthday. So I think it's people worry that you can't possibly say to somebody, I think you need to leave, which I would never say, I think you need to leave. That decision has to be that person's, but it's about no matter what you choose, I will support you. And I got from that person such high performance and energy up until they left, I think because they had an option now.
Right. So it seems like they felt misunderstood. But finally there was someone who did understand them. Even if that meant, you know, I understand that you need to move on from here to be able to develop yourself further. So do you have any I mean, there's a lot of people out there who want to develop, who want to move up. And you've talked a lot about like some of the development you've done, but it has to also come personally. from the person. They need to be responsible for their own development. They need to be accountable. Do you have any tips on someone who, let's say, is I feel I'm responsible enough. I have my own accountability, but I'm not sure what next step I should take?
Definitely, I think, speak to people around you, speak to you if you have that relationship with your manager and you have those opportunities to have a one-on-one and discuss career journeys or career opportunities. Be honest that you do want to develop, but you're not sure. I would say as well, a good tip is to look outside at the job, look at what jobs you might interest you. So just go on, job websites, have a look and think that seems interesting. What are the skills I would need if I wanted to apply for that role? That's something I do personally. Yep. I'm always looking ahead, thinking, I might not be there now, but I know at some point I want to move up or move on. And what are the skills that people are asking for? So is it then I have to go away and do another qualification? Do I need to study? Is it just get an experience of something? And then can I do that now to start to prepare?
So you said something earlier there I thought was quite interesting, and I'm a bit curious. You said that's what you do. So do you have this plan? Is it something you've planned out, or is it something that comes up at the moment and you say, oh, I want to pursue this further?
A bit of both, to be honest. Job alerts will pop up. LinkedIn will tell me about a job. And I think as well, I always, like I said at the beginning, I'm really big into self-reflection and self-awareness. Yep. So I always kind of check in on myself to see, is the work that I'm doing at the moment fulfilling me? Is it going to continue to fulfill me? Is it exciting? Or am I starting to get a little bit bored? Things are becoming a little bit easy because I always like a challenge. Right. So I think it's a bit of both. If a job advert pops up, I will take a look at it just to see how do I compare to the skills market in what I do. So I actually had a look at the exact same job that I do here, but at another organisation. Right. And just to see if I was to even step out and try and apply for that, would I even fit? Even though the role says it's the same title, there's always something different. But then I do have a plan. I don't have a plan like this year I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do this. But I know what I enjoy. And I know that at some point, what I currently do will no longer fulfill my desire to be challenged and be strategic. But what that looks like, I don't know. But it's a bit of a longer game. I'm not going to leave my job tomorrow or even the next 12 months. So it comes down
a little bit to also having a bit of self-awareness, self-reflection, and understanding yourself, what fulfills you, and what would fulfill you further, looking into the future, I guess.
Definitely. I mean, people just entering that job market today have about 60 years of work experience ahead of them. Right. I'm not sure how it works where you are, but the retirement age in England keeps kind of getting longer. People are working longer. So I think looking at the career itself as a journey rather than I want this career and that's it. Great if you can figure that out. But I left uni, had no idea what I wanted to do. I went to Asia, didn't know that I was going to stay there for that long, didn't know that I'd end up where I am today, didn't think that I could be a coach because I didn't really understand what it was. And I thought, well, I don't know much about everybody else's jobs. But I think it is, if you want to have a fulfilled and successful career, you do have to be looking inwards and questioning yourself every so often to see, am I still on that path? Is what I'm doing leading me to that future goal? How do I fit with the skills that are outside of my organisation? What even are the future trends? So I do a lot of reading as well, like Deloitte and the World Economic Forum, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn every year produces that workplace learning report. Right. So just looking at all of that, because they don't look just at the here and now, they look at the next 5 years, the next 10 years. And it starts to give you some food for thought.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it seems like a lot of the things that have happened is you're looking more at what can I experience through this learning rather than what can I just learn from this course or from what I'm doing.
Definitely. And, to go on a qualification, especially in England, it's expensive. So
Yeah,
I don't want to spend my really hard earned money on the
yeah,
wrong thing.
absolutely.
And when I was looking at what to do for my HR qualification, I had some different options, one of them being kind of a master's in HR, which obviously would be very expensive. But what would that get me at the end of it? So I actually chose a different course by an HR body in the UK, the CIPD, which felt more practical, it was more timely, and I felt that investment would pay off.
Hmm.
So definitely, I think you need to consider what it is that you want to invest in and
Right,
see that whole journey as an experience
right,
and not just what you'll get at the end of it, because there are so many highly qualified people out there. You
right.
need to make yourself stand out. So you can't
Absolutely.
just say, I've got this qualification. You're like, great, what else do you have? Because I've got 10 other people with this qualification.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm talking about like right now in the COVID situation and with all the distance learning, do you in your experience, would you say that it's easier now actually to develop yourself and find those courses that I think earlier you mentioned, we're limited to like physical location, certain times. Do you feel like now it's actually easier for someone to develop themselves?
Yeah, I think it's always been easy to develop yourself. You just need to find the opportunities. But now more than ever, those opportunities are readily available on
Mm,
that device right in front of you. It's at your fingertips.
right.
It's just probably knowing where to start. And it's interesting. I had a conversation the other day with a coachee
Mm,
around, they've just taken on a course again, but it's online. And before they took that course, they were saying not sure if they'd enjoy it because it's online. They don't learn the best online. They learn best in a classroom, talking with other people.
right.
And then speaking with them the other day, they were like, actually, it's really good because I can fit it around my home life.
Mm,
I can, do it when it suits me. I thought that I wouldn't be able to learn in the online environment, but I can. So I think it's just challenging your own assumptions about yourself and don't think, no, I prefer, I'm much better in this context to learn. So I'll wait until the pandemic eases because
right.
who knows when it's going to ease.
Very true.
But just trying new things.
Right. So it's
Definitely.
really having the right mindset, having that growth mindset and not limiting yourselves.
Definitely. Yeah. All about that
Absolutely.
growth mindset.
Absolutely. So coming to the end here, I have one more question. Let's say that Kathryn, your life's work is done and you're moving on to a better place, and you can leave two pearls of wisdom for the world. What would your two pearls of wisdom be?
um, it's a good question, David. I
I'll
think
give
people,
you
I'm
a bit of
always,
time to think
yeah.
about it.
Um, to be honest, I think one of my pearls of wisdom would relate to life, just in general, as well as work. But, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and try something new. So say yes to a lot of opportunities that come along because you don't know where that opportunity will then take you.
Mm,
So I think, that's something I live
great
by,
one.
not just professionally, but personally.
Mm, that's a great
Somebody,
one.
especially, moving abroad and
Right.
just saying yes to everything, you explore so much more. And then you can think, right, I didn't like that. I like this, rather than going with what you think you know about yourself, because you'll surprise yourself. And often you'll surprise yourself in a really good way of, what you could achieve and what potential you do have and how you did get through difficult situations. So I
That's
think that would
very
be one.
true and very powerful. Yeah. What would be your second one?
Um, so the first one, just say yes, take all your opportunities, don't be afraid. My second one, what's the worst that could happen? Really, I guess that kind of goes with the first one. Take a calculated risk. I'm not saying quit your job today and venture off without any thought. But use those people around you who care, and surround yourself with people who are going to be honest with you.
And then use that to take those risks that you might need to take.
Yeah. If you only surround yourself with people who are exactly like you, then where's that new insight? Where's that different opinion going to come from? So I think try to surround yourself with people who you trust, but that do have those different thoughts to you, to try to understand, someone else's perspective, but also surround yourself with people who will be honest. Absolutely. Because that's what helps you grow, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, getting your own experience is a good thing, but getting experience from people who can share, their experiences and their knowledge is also very valuable in a way. That's something very important.
Definitely. And I think, everybody, we like to be nice. We like to really support other people. But with that support comes being honest as well about where maybe you see that somebody needs to focus, or just maybe, thinking that you would have done something a bit differently, or how they approached it wasn't the best way, or just, saying, if you want to get to this level, this is probably what you need to work on, because at the moment I'm not seeing, maybe that influencing skill or the way that you communicate. You have great ideas, but it often comes out maybe a little bit mumbled or not quite clear. So they're kind of like guiding steps, aren't they? And I think some of my closest friends are the ones that I probably disagree with the most, but they challenge you. They challenge your thinking.
Those are two very good pearls of wisdom. So Kathryn, thank you very much for your time and coming on as a guest and sharing some of your experience and tips. It's been a pleasure having you, and hope to have you again sometime in the future and see where you've gone with your development.
I know, watch this space.
All right.
No, thanks for having me, David. It's been a joy.
It's been a pleasure here too. So thank you.